We have an orchard of near enough half a dozen apple trees and maybe a few eaten apple ones. So these are all cooking apples, and every year we produce maybe 100, 200 litres / kilo-ish, whatever, of apples. That's a lot of apples. And there's only so many tarts and pies and stews you can make. So a few years ago we bought an apple press, and with this press we can convert 30 litres of apples into 1 litre of juice. And that's not a lot of juice for 30 litres of apples. So I'm going to build a contraption to convert that 1 litre into at least 25 litres. And that's quite an ask, but for an apple grinder it should be no problem. So I've come up with a rough design for a grinder, but I'm short on time, so instead of being creative I've kind of just like cloned a Matthias van Del idea. So anyway, we're going to start with the basics. So the first bit will be the drum. And this is a rough shape and size, and I have a few measurements. This is the only stuff I actually have measurements for. Everything else will just be based around this. So there'll be a drum, and there will be stainless steel screws, and the edge of the screw will act as a cutting edge, which will just carve away at the apple, shredding it slowly. And then this is going to be attached to an axle, which will be keyed into the drum so that it doesn't spin, and then there'll just be a hand crank, so you'll just go zhoo, 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 and that'll grind up all the apples. And to keep the apples forced down against this grinding drum, there's going to be a plunger lever kind of thing. So there'll be a pivot, the pushing down force onto the apples, and then where you apply the force here, which is a kind of a lever arrangement. But you can't just push the apples down into the drum because they're going to want to move out of the way. So to keep them in place, there's going to be needing a chute assembly. So the plunger piece is going to push down inside of this box area, and it will push the apples against this here. To hold it all together, there will be a big frame, and there's some bearing blocks to hold the crank. So that's a lot to consume, but I'm just going to get straight into it because I'm short on time. I'm going to use this mega chunky piece. I have the piece of wood I want to cut all marked up. This is my 16-inch bandsaw. That's a bunch of logs. Let's get cutting. So I took it to the axe and I trimmed it up mostly. So now I'm just going to fish it off with the bandsaw. So I made a template, and that was able to help me mark out all the hole positions for the screws. So I've added all the screws to the drum, and it is looking great, and I can tell you it doesn't shred your hand, but it sure is going to shred some apples. I can now cut the bearing blocks which are going to hold the axle so it can spin. Done crank handle, just hole for the axle there, and then I stuck on a bit of branch and that'll give you a crank handle. I've done all the maths for the bits of the box walls that are going to fit around the drum, and I just need to chop it all up. Now I need to cut the dado grooves. Done! So the box is finished, complete with half laps, and inside I've done a wee tapered cut here, so it's nice and thick here, but thin here. On top of that, I stabbed myself with a chisel. Wood varnishes and finishes don't taste very good, so I'm going to sand it all off. The box is now complete with holes, so it can slide over the axle. I've just split the bit of decking down the middle, which gives me 2 pieces now for my side rails. I need these 2 side bits to be supported and stuck to each other, so I'm going to do some diagonal braces, And then I need to attach the box to this, but only temporarily, so I can just lift it clean off, because at the moment it's kind of just sitting there. And there's the way go. It's all looking splendid. The box is sitting nice and rigid, but can be lifted clean off. The parallel support bits are in fact parallel, and the cranks. And if I take off the box, you can see the drum go num num num. Now I just need to make a lever pushy thingy to crush the apples into this drum of death. And finally, she's all done. Finally, quick project. 2 days more like. So, crank this open, take your apple, put her in here, then pull this down, set that on, and as you push the apple in, you turn it, and that will grind it until it's mush. Then you open it up, put in the next apple or two, put it down again, grind, and this will slowly go down as you apply force. Does look a bit rough, so I'm going to give her a touch up. So this is the apple grinder completed in its final beauty. Now it is sitting currently on top of a chest freezer because it sits quite nicely, but in reality you'd have it sitting on 2 chairs, 2 sawhorses, something, so that there would be a gap in the middle, and you slide a bucket under the chute, and then when you take an apple, put it in, press down and crank the handle, the juice would pour out of the bottom, take out the bucket, put her in the press, and bing bang bong, lots of juice, lots of fun, lots of good fruit in your belly. But I have been doing a lot of things this week, and this is already taking a lot of time, so next week I'm going to make some apple cider, and I will show you myself using this machine in operation, and I will show you using the press and the whole operation, and hopefully it doesn't taste horrible, but it should taste fine. So if you want to watch that, that will be available here next week, or whenever. It might be available there, depending on when you're watching this. And if you want, you can subscribe here, because I do weird, completely random, unrelated stuff that I want to do.